How long have I been asleep? Hello, Internet! Welcome to Tales Showcase, where we disappear for months at a time and offer little to no explanation for it. I'm your host, the Watvher of New Earth. Yes, folks, we're back, whether you asked us to be or not. And interestingly, this is actually our 1-year anniversary on YouTube. It's not, actually. That was a few months ago, but none of you sent us a card or a text or anything, really, but it's fine. It's fine, it's just I would remember when your anniversary is. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. My, what a year it has been, though. I remember when I first started Tales to Showcase, I was a nobody comic book fan who felt way too entitled to express his own opinion. And now look at me. I have not changed. Although, the only thing that is different now is that my face has been seen all around the world. For about 2 seconds, at which point people realized that this isn't NerdSync and promptly turned the video off. When Showcase started, we were nearing the end of the presidency of our first black president, which was a big move for progressives, by the way. In fact, we were so inspired by this trend of adding a colored president for the first time that we kept it going and elected the first orange one. And it's been going just fantastic. In fact, free speech has never been easier in this country. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we learned that Nazis can protest and get a fair shake. Nazis! Last year, there was only one American power promoting Nazis. And I think we can all agree it's been a weird year, to say the least. The continuing political scandals, the devastating natural disasters, the fact that I now have to respect France more than my own government, and possibly, weirdly enough, how good the new DuckTales reboot is. Who the hell saw that coming? Thankfully, one thing that has remained unchanged since last year is the reputation held by one of the most influential people in comic bookdom, Jacob Kurtzberg, better known as Jack Kirby. Born August 28, 1917, Jack Kirby would go on to have a long, influential career in comic books. He's regarded as one of the most influential creators in the industry, possibly only rivaled by Siegel and Schuster, the creators of Superman. Unlike those two, however, who only have Superman and his supporting cast on their resume, Jack Kirby has, well, basically everyone. No joke, most of Marvel's major characters were either created or inspired by Jack Kirby. In his resume alone are Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, the Fantastic Four, the original X-Men, Doctor Doom, the Silver Surfer, the last couple of which are not on this poster because, as we all know, Marvel is really shady about that. And it's done then there. When Kirby moved over from Marvel to DC back in the 70s, he went over to create the New Gods, with characters such as Orion, Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, and even Darkseid. Freaking Darkseid! So his impact is clearly felt through both companies, and he's inspired hundreds of comic book artists. So, really begs the question, how is he not more acknowledged? I mean, granted, all of us in the comic book world know who he is, but overall, he's rather unknown. Certainly not reaching Stan Lee level fame before his unfortunate death in 1994, which is really weird when you consider that if you really look at those creation stories, it becomes clear that Kirby did most of the work. This was even apparent when they split apart. Kirby went on to keep being his creative self all through his career, while Stan Lee moved over to the business side. And I know, this makes it look like I'm against Stan Lee, and believe me, I'm not. But all I'm saying is that it seems kind of weird for all of us to give credit to Stan Lee instead of Kirby. And don't get me wrong, Stan Lee played a huge part in Kirby's career. He was the promoter. He was the one telling everybody that their comics were better than everyone else's. Kirby, for all his talent, couldn't do that. He was a quiet, shy man, and he could never promote himself like Stan did. That was apparent in his later career. But isn't this kind of like listening to a Beatles song and then praising their manager for how good it was? I don't know, it's weird. But, thankfully, with Jack Kirby's 100th birthday having just passed, it seems that the world might be ready to finally acknowledge this great king of comics, one of the most influential forces in the industry. And today we're going to do our part. Today we're going to be looking at Captain America's return in the Silver Age. That's right, we're going to be looking at The Avengers, number 4 from 1964. Our story opens with a splash page brightly declaring that Captain America joins the Avengers. Because apparently spoilers meant nothing in the 60s. The story picks up where the last issue ended, with the Avengers fighting Namor the Submariner, one of Marvel's earliest heroes, who had teamed up with the Hulk but was later abandoned by him. Namor escapes into the sea, plunging deeper and deeper. He suddenly stops, exasperated at losing his people, the Atlanteans. Apparently they saw some doofus in an orange shirt riding a seahorse and said, yeah, I'm going with that guy. Hours later, Namor resurfaces in the Arctic where he spots some humans worshipping a figure encased in ice, causing him to do his best Colbert impression. Still peeved off at the human race, he decides to go off on this group of innocents, like you do. Run, you weak, helpless mortals. Flee in terror before the rightful wrath of Namor. Thus shall all of mankind one day shriek in panic at the coming of the Submariner. Okay, look, I'm not saying that Namor isn't one of the strongest characters Marvel has. He's not, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if you saw somebody like this running around, fear probably wouldn't be your first response. I mean, granted, you'd probably start running in fear, but you'd probably laugh at him a little. Maybe send off a tweet before you start running in fear for your life. Namor tosses the frozen figure into the ocean as he begins to realize how obsolete his outburst is. And yet, still continues to rampage. Very mature. Meanwhile, the figure in ice continues to float south, where it eventually melts. Now free of the ice, the figure is spotted by the Avengers from their submarine. They bring him in by reaching out of the sub. Presumably flooding the whole thing, but we won't worry about that right now. Thor and Giant Man study the figure, wondering who it could possibly be. Yes, it truly is a mystery. This comic has really tried to keep this under wraps. Although he's covered in rags, the Wasp recognizes the costume underneath as that of Captain America. The rest of them inspect the rest of the costume when he suddenly sits up and begins to yell for Bucky. The Avengers attempt to restrain him, and Cap's fury subsides and he falls to the ground. It's useless. I remember now. He is dead. He is. And nothing on Earth can change that. You clearly underestimate power of Mother Russia. Cap composes himself and dons his mask, formally introducing himself. The Avengers are naturally skeptical, and to reassure them, Cap challenges them to try and take him down. Because that'll prove something, I guess. This naturally starts a fight in which none of the Avengers are able to best Cap. The Wasp ends it by growing to her full size and telling him to stop unless he wishes to strike her as well. Well, I mean, if Hank can do it. I mean, no. We're convinced, fellow. You're the real McCoy, all right? For God's sake, Stark, he's a captain, not a doctor. While the Avengers have seemingly been convinced, that still leaves the question of how Cap has not aged in almost 20 years. He then goes on to explain how he and his partner, Bucky, were attempting to stop a plane filled with bombs from taking off. It does take to the air, but Cap and Bucky manage to grab on. Cap, however, slips off and yells at Bucky to let go when the plane suddenly explodes. It exploded! Bucky's gone! Wait, no, it might just be his arm. It's honestly really hard to tell from here. Cap then fell into the ocean where he presumes he froze, which preserved him. The Avengers then dock in New York where reporters await them and snap their pictures. However, there's a large flash, and when it clears, the Avengers have been replaced by life-size statues. The reporters assume it was a trick of the Avengers to avoid interviews, and they disperse. Cap, meanwhile, is just getting out of the sub. He sees that the dock has been deserted and decides to explore this bright new world. As he walks around, it seems that, despite how long he's been away, the world has not forgotten him, as many passerby recognize him. A policeman points Cap in the direction of a hotel where Cap settles in. How and why Captain America is carrying enough money for a hotel is possibly the most annoying part about this comic. Cap begins to rest, thinking way too much about a teenage boy. Suddenly, he sits up, sensing someone in the room. To his surprise, it seems to be Bucky, returned from the dead. In reality, it's actually Rick Jones, a good friend of the Hulk and of the Avengers. It's unbelievable. You're like his twin brother. Your voice, your face, everything. My God, you even smell like him. Rick, being an idiot, decides not to run away from the costumed weirdo and tells him that he's been following him around town as the Avengers are missing and Cap was the last to see them. Cap agrees to help and quickly gets into action, asking to see the pictures from the dock. Rick is able to get them, somehow. Cap enlarges one picture and sees one of the photographers carrying what appears to be a gun. And that's all well and good. I just want to know what idiot photographer was taking a picture of the other photographers instead of the Avengers. Rick Jones contacts the Teen Brigade, his army of unsupervised adolescents, and tells them to be on the lookout for a white guy with black hair and sunglasses. You know, easy. Miraculously, Cap is able to locate the man and bursts into his apartment. Unbeknownst to him, there were several goons in the room. This leads to a fight where Cap dispatches them easily, all while they marvel that Cap has returned, because apparently everybody and their mother knows who Cap is. Cap then heads for the main guy, literally unmasking him, revealing that he was an alien the whole time. Of course? Upon learning what they've been working for, the men flee, leaving Cap to question the creature. I come from a far distant galaxy. My name would be meaningless to you, as Earth tongues cannot even pronounce it. So you can call me Al. The alien explains that he crash-landed on Earth centuries ago and has sought help numerous times, but has always been met with hostility. These early incidents, where he fired his gun and turned people to stone, actually inspired the legend of Medusa. Which gets really awkward when you realize that that means that this beloved Marvel character actually got her name from a decaying piece of broccoli. Cap asks why he attacked the Avengers, and he reveals that Namor promised his help if the alien could defeat the heroes. Cap instead promises his help if he frees the Avengers, and the alien obliges. Meanwhile, Namor monitors them and realizes he's failed. He sets out to end this, but doesn't get far when he finds members of his Imperial Guard who appear to remain loyal to him. Elsewhere, the Avengers are attempting to help the alien free his ship, which is lodged at the bottom of the ocean. Thor ultimately succeeds by using his hammer as a magnet and pulling the ship loose. Magnets! Oh! With the ship free, the alien begins his repairs underwater. Everything seems to be wrapping up fine when suddenly Namor and his soldiers show up, leading to an admittedly cool fight sequence between the Avengers and Atlanteans. One absent from the fight, however, is Cap, who chooses to observe instead. That is until Rick Jones, who was apparently there the whole time, is captured, which forces Cap into action. Dude, you need to chill with the whole teenage boy thing. People are starting to ask questions. The fight continues, but suddenly the island begins to shake. Namor retreats and decides to let the ocean engulf them. It turns out to just be the alien's ship, and the Avengers remain unscathed. Giant Man, however, notices the Wasp is missing. She reappears, however, revealing that she was powdering her nose. Don't worry, Jan, we all do it. And our comic ends the way it began, with Captain America joining the Avengers. What a shock. And that was the Avengers number 4, and jokes aside, it's a pretty good book. Like the Avengers number 1 that I covered over a year ago, it is very much a product of its time. It's goofy and a little absurd, but that adds to its inherent charm. And the fact that it remains one of the most influential books of the Silver Age is just a testament to the staying power of Jack Kirby, the king of comics. As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. This is the Watcher of New Earth, signing off.